What's up, folks? So sitting here in the parking lot, got to wait on somebody for a while. It's gonna be like 45 minutes, so I figured I'd just talk into the camera for a minute and tell you about something that happened the other day. Wasn't gonna make this video, but I figure, hey, whatever. I could care less, honestly. I'm all set on friends. So, active self-protection. This guy trains with all these people. He's got a big subscriber count now from showing people the gunfights and stuff, and even though he doesn't ever give any of his own experience, he critiques everyone else's performance in gunfights, and for the most part he does a good job. Sometimes he says some shit that's just like, well, if you've ever been in a situation like that, you know that's kind of silly, but we'll give him some breaks on that. But his other channel is the extra channel, where he shows like what his practice is, shows him training with some guys, shows him teaching some people. And I've always regarded him as a smart guy, but extremely uncreative and a chronic regurgitator. Okay, so I'm a big proponent of, if you're going to become an instructor, become a freaking instructor and come up with your own shit. Okay, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you got to be creative. And the biggest thing is, you have to own what you're talking about. If I can do one thing coming through this camera to you, I want you to believe that I own what I'm talking about. I own the shit that's coming out of my mouth. I didn't hear it yesterday. I didn't look it up on Google before I freaking pushed record. I'm experimenting every single time I dry fire, every single time I live fire. Experimentation and changing is and evolving is absolutely key. So this time I had offered a suggestion to John, the guy that has that channel, before, and he met me with 100% ego. Okay, now this is the guy that'll sit around and say, always a student, always learning, always a student, blah blah fucking blah. And excuse me for my language, but that shit is getting old. All these instructors that are like, well, always the student, you always have to be learning, unless that tidbit of information comes from someone you don't know, or someone that doesn't have a million followers. But instead of judging the actual information, we'll judge the person it's coming from. Not me. I vow to never do that. If someone says something obviously stupid, I'm going to say, yeah, I'll try that. The person that might be commenting on my video might be a grandmaster. Maybe they know some shit. Maybe they're giving you a little tip that could open up a door and completely change your shooting today. I've had one phrase, one little thing completely change my outlook on a certain topic, certain subject. It's happened in racing dirt bikes, it's happened in fighting, and it's happened in shooting. One particular thing from one particular person has changed me that day of how I look at things. Always a student, huh? Always learning. Okay. Well, so what I did was he was showing some dry fire, and he said he was at 0.8 was as fast as he could go right now. Okay, and in dry fire, 0.8, it's not bad at all. But for someone that prides themselves and kind of gives themselves compliments all the time on their shooting, and kind of puffs themselves up as this big, high level shooter, 0.8 in dry fire is nothing. If I'm actually working on my draw from concealment, from appendix, I'm at 0.6, and that's kind of where I hang out. I try for 0.5s every once in a while. I can't really get 0.5, but I can get 0.6 over and over and over and over and over again from a hands up position. Okay, so I just messaged him and said, look, I know you probably won't do this, but this is just a suggestion, just an experiment, just something to try. give him my spiel on the hands up position and kind of making that semicircle out of your draw, and then you landing smoother, and when the sights come on, that when you build your top triangle, it kind of lands sooner and smoother, and you're breaking trigger right here instead of throwing the gun up. You're throwing it up really quick because your draw always starts static position instead of rolling into it. Just like boxing, if you're standing here like this, you can't throw punches nearly as fast just sitting here like this. And unless you're bobbing all around, pop, then you can actually put some torque and some hip into shit and throw something quickly. It's the exact same principles. And I laid it out in 5 or 6, maybe 7 sentences. I don't know, I can't remember. And did not say anything, I mean, at all impolite. I mean, I was polite as can be. In one point, I said, you know, you try this, experiment with this, and I said in there, there's not much holding you back now, as an actual compliment to him, saying, there's not, you know, you're at 0.8, like you're crushing it. There's not anything really much holding you back, but I believe that starting from that fig leaf position, you're calling it, and with your hand already on the shirt, stuff like that, that's actually a hindrance. To where if you can get to 0.8 or 0.7 or 0.6 from this position, then you got your draw, you own that. So the only thing he disregarded the entire rest of my comment and focused on that one line where I said there's not much holding you back. And then he gives me a bunch of eye-rolly emojis, and yeah, because my 0.8 is so slow. Didn't say that. Never said that. In fact, I was trying to give you a compliment. But 0.8 in dry fire, for a guy that's job is to teach firearms and run a YouTube firearm channel, and you know, he takes classes off of every good instructor on planet Earth, 0.8 in dry fire is slow. So I replied and said, look, man, what happened to always being the student? I gave you a perfect suggestion, just a suggestion of a thing to try, and you come back at me with that? That's bitch shit, okay? And I laid it out, because this is not the first time it happened, this is the second time. And yes, this time I was just probing, seeing what he would do, hoping that he would take the advice and say, you know, I might try that, thanks. But you gotta protect that ego, okay? So then I give him, you know, and I just said, don't let the words always a student come out your mouth again, okay? And he writes back to me, I have 300 hours of formal instruction from Scott Jedlinski and Gabe White and this guy and this guy and this guy. He starts naming off instructors in his 300 hours, right? And you're just some guy on the internet. You're talking nonsense, he says. Well, I assume you can read. I assume that you could read the sentences that I laid out for you and say, you know, that's not nonsense. And I'm just giving you one little nugget, one little thing to try, to experiment with. I'm not saying that I can teach you better than Scott and Gabe White and all these people. I don't give a shit if you have 3,000 hours of instruction if you're still at this level, and you could be at this level. So what I wrote back was, he wrote, you know, who are you? You're talking nonsense. Well, if you would judge shit on the information provided instead of the person providing it, you might get somewhere. And I just said, well, that's your insecurity talking there. See, you're worried about names and clout. Okay, so he asked me where my fast coin is. How many fast drills have you seen me do under 5 seconds on this channel? They're easy. My fastest is under 4. Okay, where's my fast drill? Where's my Scott Jedlinski black belt patch? Where's my Gabe White turbo pin? And I replied, you know, that's pretty insecure of you to need all those pins and medals to tell me what the fuck I can do every range day. I do them Every time I go to the range, I beat those standards. I hit those standards almost every single time I step foot on a range. I don't need to pay $400 to go take a class from someone and then say, look, I got a medal that says I can do the shit that I do all the time. Next year, don't you freaking worry. You can look up my scores on Practice Score and see what the hell's going on. Because I got a plan for next year, and it involves the letters G and fucking M. So don't worry about me and my fast coin. Anyway, before I get going too much, it's just nonsense. Learn from anyone that has decent information. If you read a comment, you read an article, you see a video, and someone says something that makes sense, take it. Experimentation and changing and evolving is the key to getting freaking better at shooting and better at defense. When I tell you defensive shit, that's because I had someone try to shoot me in the face. I've been stabbed in the back and the arm 4 times. I fought 3 guys for my life in a fucking kitchen the size of this truck interior. I've been around the block. I know how people act. If I'm telling you something in that context, it's because it's coming from me. I own it. I didn't learn it yesterday from another guy that I'm regurgitating the shit right back to you. I own that. I own it. I own the scars that come with that.